In 1945, a German woman named Erna Bielart was arrested by Soviet soldiers. She was accused of being a concentration camp supervisor at Stutthof, one of the most notorious camps of World War II. Along with several other women, she was put on trial to determine her level of responsibility for the atrocities committed there. As witnesses gave their accounts of the horrific crimes, the public was shocked. It was hard to believe that women, who appeared so young and innocent, could be capable of such brutal acts. Bielart, however, repeatedly insisted that she had no involvement in the torture or murders. She claimed she had never harmed anyone and was just as shocked as everyone else when she learned about the cruelty inflicted at the camp. According to Bielart, her role at Stutthof had been minor, and she tried to stay away from the harsh treatment of the prisoners. She explained that she was only a supervisor for a brief period and that she was unaware of the full extent of the horrors happening around her. Survivors of the camp even supported her claims, stating that she had not been directly involved in the violence. Some testified that she had even shown moments of compassion, unlike the other guards. Despite these testimonies, the court remained unconvinced. They argued that it was difficult to believe anyone working at the camp could have been completely unaware of the atrocities being committed. The trial was a matter of life and death for Bielart, as the judges would soon decide if she and the other defendants would face execution or imprisonment. The court knew that the decisions they made in this case would set an important precedent, showing the world that those responsible for the horrors of the Holocaust would face justice, regardless of their rank or gender. Stutthof concentration camp was the first Nazi camp established outside of Germany during World War II. Located in a remote area of Poland, it opened in September 1939. Initially, it was intended to hold important members of Polish society, including political, religious, and cultural leaders. The Nazis had drawn up lists of influential Poles deemed dangerous, with plans to arrest them as part of their efforts to reshape the country in accordance with Nazi ideals. The prisoners were subjected to brutal conditions and forced labor with little hope of ever being released. Although Stutthof was originally meant for civilians, it soon became a place for prisoners of war as well. Within weeks of its opening, the camp held 6,000 people, and the numbers continued to grow as Jews from conquered territories were deported there. The camp also had 40 sub-camps, which were smaller camps connected to the main one. These sub-camps were scattered across the region, and prisoners were sent to work in factories, quarries, and other harsh environments. Most of the work was related to supporting the German war machine, especially in the production of weapons and other military supplies. Conditions in Stutthof were horrific. Prisoners lived in overcrowded barracks with little food or water. Diseases spread rapidly, and many prisoners died from malnutrition or illness. Over the years, approximately 110,000 people passed through its gates. More than half of them perished due to disease, starvation, or execution in gas chambers. The gas chambers at Stutthof were particularly feared, as they were used to kill large numbers of prisoners, often without warning. Guards would select prisoners seemingly at random, sending them to their deaths. The camp became a place of terror, where survival depended on luck as much as anything else. One of the darkest rumors about Stutthof was that the Nazis used the body fat of prisoners to make soap. While this was never fully confirmed, the brutality and torture inflicted at the camp were undeniable. By early 1945, as the Third Reich neared collapse, the camp's leaders forced thousands of starving, sick prisoners to march long distances to evade the advancing Allies. These forced marches were known as death marches because the conditions were so terrible that many prisoners did not survive. It is estimated that 25,000 people died during these marches, collapsing from exhaustion or being shot by guards if they fell behind. When the Soviet Army liberated Stutthof on May 9, 1945, only about 100 survivors remained, marking the end of one of the darkest chapters in history. Following Germany's surrender, the Allies captured 72 SS officers and 6 female supervisors from Stutthof. In 1946, these individuals were put on trial for war crimes. The Stutthof trials were among the first post-war trials held to hold Nazi officials accountable for their actions. Among the defendants were Jenny Barkmann, Elizabeth Becker, Wanda Klaff, Ewa Paradis, Gerda Steinhoff, and Erna Bielart. Witnesses testified to the torture they endured at the hands of these women. The trial attracted attention not only for the crimes committed, but also because of the demeanor of the defendants. During the trial, witnesses reported that Jenny Barkmann appeared uninterested in the proceedings. She was described as smiling, laughing, and even flirting with guards, showing little concern for the trial or the charges against her. Other defendants, such as Wanda Klaff, were similarly unrepentant. Klaff even boasted about her role in the camp, claiming that she excelled at her job and took pride in her cruelty. In stark contrast, the only visibly anxious defendant was Erna Bielart, who appeared nervous and distressed throughout the trial. Bielart defended herself by stating, "I joined the Nazi Party in 1933 because I liked the idea of a strong nation, but I never liked my job. The prisoners were tormented too much, and I had to look away." She claimed she resigned 6 weeks after being appointed as a supervisor and spent the rest of the war caring for wounded soldiers. Despite her testimony, the court sentenced her to 5 years in prison. The other women faced a much harsher fate, with evidence showing their direct involvement in the selection of prisoners for the gas chambers. One of the defendants, Wanda Klaff, even boasted about her actions, stating, "I'm very intelligent and always excelled at my work. I beat at least 2 prisoners a day." Another survivor testified about Ewa Paradis, recounting how she forced a group of inmates to strip naked in the snow and doused them with freezing water, beating anyone who moved. The court found overwhelming evidence of their cruelty, sentencing 5 of the Stutthof guards to death by hanging. The executions were set for July 4, 1946, in Gdansk, Poland, where 20,000 people gathered to witness the punishment of these war criminals. The method of execution was particularly brutal. Instead of a traditional scaffold, ropes were tied around the women's necks, attached to trucks. As the vehicles drove forward, the women were slowly strangled to death. Jenny Barkmann was the first to be executed, her last words being, "Life is a pleasure, and that's why it ends quickly." One by one, the remaining women faced their grim fate. Alongside them, 6 male guards who had also committed atrocities at the camp were hanged. This was how the victims of Stutthof found a small measure of justice for the horrors they endured under the Nazi regime. Now, as we reach the end of this video, we want to hear from you. Do you think Erna Bielart deserved execution like the others? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos on history.